Welcome back to another Not As Debatable. I am Sidney Smith. That is my brother to my side there, Deon Curry. What is good, Master Debaters? Thank you guys for joining us for another show. I'm going to let you guys start to filter in a little bit before I reveal our surprise. While we're waiting for some of you guys to jump in, I want to go ahead and give everyone a shout out there who is a member of our Patreon, a patron of our Patreon. Thank you guys very much. We appreciate you. As I tell you every week, you help us keep the lights on, so we love you, we appreciate you, and thank you for loving us the way that you do. For all of our folks out there who watch us on YouTube live, I see Mary Ballard just hopped in. Thank you guys for jumping on and watching us there. Shout out to everybody who watches us on Facebook Live. We thank you, we appreciate you. And for everyone who watches, or I should say listens on YouTube, shout out to you guys for doing that as well. We love you guys, we appreciate you. Keep it going. Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher. Please share the show. If you're enjoying it, share the show. We appreciate if you would just share, subscribe, tell somebody about it. We try to get the word out as best we can, but if you guys would help, we would really appreciate it. Same thing for you folks who watch us on Facebook Live and YouTube. Don't let us be a secret. I guess that's the big thing I'm trying to say. Don't let us be a secret. And right now, go ahead and click that share button if you are watching us right now on Facebook Live. With all that said, what is good, my brother, Deon Curry? How you doing?
Happy Monday to you, Sid. Happy Monday to you, August. Happy Monday to all our Master Debaters. Another week, another show. It was a eventful weekend for you, Sid. You were on stage.
Yep.
I was very, very happy to watch that IG reel and see some of the pictures that you posted on
Thanks,
Facebook. So congrats to you.
Thanks,
me personally, I had a very, very chill, low-key weekend. Did not do much. I only left the house one time. I've been writing some stuff. We got the WGA strike, so I've been taking this time to work on some new material. I'm looking forward to try and get a album recorded on by the end of the year. So I've been working on some new stuff.
Okay. Love it. Love it. We always grinding, y'all. We always grind. All we ask for is a little help from you. With no further ado, and I'll get into some of the stuff that Deon just mentioned we are going to bring up our surprise for you. So let me go ahead and add her. For folks who do not know the blurry vision person you see there.
Why is it so blurry?
that is.
It ain't blurry on my side.
Just take it easy, play. That is my sister. I call her my big little sister, August O'Neill, hilarious comedian herself. She will now be our tech screener, if you will. For anybody out there who's listening to a talk show on the radio, you know they have screeners to make sure don't no bullshit get filtered through or get through. So they filter it out. So August will be doing that. But the most important thing August is going to do for us is make sure that Deon and I don't look illiterate as we read some of these comments that get sent over to us, because sometimes it's a little too wordy, sometimes it's misspelled, and sometimes we just can't see it. So August is going to handle that side of things for us, and we do appreciate it. August is already getting some love over here.
I see that. Oh, hi. Thank you.
And from time to time, as she likes to call herself, as Robin does on the Howard Stern show, August will be chiming in with some comments from time to time. Which is why I'm sure she's referring herself as Robin, because Howard does love her. I said you're gonna be a screener, and the first thing she said, "Oh, like Robin?" You know damn well Robin don't screen no fucking calls.
Hey, I was giving her some type of title. You know, I know she's a coach, but she needs to do something else. But yeah.
So August will be with us every week, hopefully, while we do the show going forward. All right, before we jump into the show, and welcome August, welcome.
Thank you.
Before we jump into the show, I did want to say thank you to everybody who did come out to see me at CB Live. It was an awesome 3 shows that I had with Brett Ernst, one of my favorite guys to work with. Luis Alvarez, another funny dude I love getting a chance to work with. So shout out to everyone. I have some more pictures I'm going to throw up. Slim and the whole crew came out. August was there with her girls. It was a good time. So more shows to come, obviously, but I just want to get those shout outs. All right. August, ma'am.
Yes.
What is our first topic?
Our first topic is, can a criminal ever really pay their debt back to society? And I already have one comment in here. The person said, they said anyone but a sex offender.
Anyone but a sex offender. Okay, before we hit that, you know what? Because we're doing this new, I'm messing my own stuff up. Can you go to some of the comments? Do we have some folks who already jumped in? We got some names of folks who saying what's up or hello to us at all? Who's out there?
Yes, that'll be Carla Lorraine, Kat Miro, Slim, of course, is in here. Lotus Shine. Ooh, I like that name.
What up, Lotus?
Okay. What's this? Millie Talone. Millie Talone?
Malay.
I got to put Malay.
Yeah.
Malay. Okay, look, that looks like an L, but it might be an I.
All right. Move on. Who's next? Who's next?
And Bruce. Bruce Belter. Y'all shut it.
Already run into the same issue. Put your glasses on.
Like this.
Out here trying to work without your glasses. Put some contacts on or something. All right, let's go ahead and jump into a topic here. So the first one is, can a criminal ever pay their debt to society? Deon, I want to hear from you first before we go to the comments. As always, folks, we want to hear from you guys. We have August here. She'll be keeping track of the comments. So you guys let us know what you think as well. And don't forget to click that share button. Deon, what's your thoughts on it, bro?
So normally you and I discuss the topics beforehand, before we actually bring them to the show. And then you brought this to me about a couple hours ago. And it's a very good question. And my answer is it depends on the crime. Obviously, if you are a petty criminal, yes, you can repay your debt to society. If you steal from somebody, you can replace what you stole depending on what it is you stole. Now, if you took somebody's life, obviously they can never get that life back. So no, I don't think in that regard that you could ever pay back the crime that you committed. Somebody said something about sex offending, and I also agree. I don't think that you can ever repay the person that you offended in that regard. But when we like parking tickets and, child support, that type of thing, white collar crime to a certain extent, I think you can rehabilitate yourself from doing those type of things. You can pay back society what you have taken from society and the public. I think it is possible. Now, the way that we do that, I wouldn't necessarily say that is possible, because I don't think prison is about rehabilitation at all. Of all the things prison does, rehabilitate people is not one of them. So to answer the question, yes, but in practicality and real life, no, not really.
Well, so here's my thing. If we're talking about can you repay the debt, I think that's different than can you be rehabilitated. And if we're going to say, if the answer to your question is yes or no, because I see someone already, or August already said it, someone said sex offender, then are we trying to say only certain felons or certain criminals can repay it? Because if that's the case, then we should be wiping whatever group of people that you want to say they can't repay that off the earth, I guess.
Well, let me ask you this. Who gets to decide how the debt is paid? Right? So if I don't forgive you for what you did to me, then your debt is never paid. I
said to society. I didn't say to the victim. I said to society.
The victim lives in society, right?
No, yeah, but that's not. I think I see what you're trying to do. That's not what that even means, Deon. Doesn't mean can you repay the debt to the person that was the victim. That means to all of society.
Okay, right. So if all of society agrees with the victim, then no, you can't repay your debt. If the victim hasn't forgiven you, the chances of society forgiving you are much slimmer than as if the victim is like, you know what, I'm a co-sign to this person's rehabilitation and their payment to the debt, so to speak. You have a much higher chance of being reincorporated into social life if the person you offended vouches for you.
Right, but here's the problem that you are going to have with this, because now you're asking that the victim be consulted in all things. Now the victim needs to be involved in the punishment. The victim needs to be involved if you're going to get out. All these different things. And that is not the way that our system works. Yes, can they come and make some victim statement at the end when you're found guilty? Sure. They do that to be kind. Can you come and speak when they go ahead and say, hey, they're deciding if they're going to parole you or not? Absolutely. Again, to be kind. But not everybody wants to be a part of that.
You said the key word.
Go ahead.
Your key words was how our system works. And that's where I argue our system doesn't work, because it doesn't rehabilitate people. It doesn't get people back into society. When you go to prison, the debt that you accrue versus the crime that you commit are often not the same. And so you have people on felonious drug charges with no victim. And these people can't vote. These people can't own firearms. These people can't get jobs. And so that's the system. And that's why I say it's a load of crap. It just depends on what you do.
Well, and that goes along with it. So
But we have a few comments.
oh, just 1 second, August. I do want to go to just 1 second. But that goes to it as well. If we are saying that they can, if we are saying that this person's paid their debt to society, we still have antiquated rules. One of the top ones I dislike is the fact that you are not allowed to vote. I do not think you should lose your right to vote if you are going to release that person back into the world. They should be allowed to participate in the political arena like everyone else is allowed to do it. And so that is one, but that's not the only issue I have. August, if you go to some comments first, please.
Yes, Chelsea Chavez says, it depends on the crime. I'm not forgiving someone who shoots up a school.
Okay. All right. Any more? What else?
All right. Oh, yes. I'll give you just a moment. Bruce Belter states, the level or crime is what it should be all based on, but some people can't get over being in prison. And then Slim has his comment, pedos can expire in prison. Everybody else, do your time and go on about your life.
Okay. All right.
I'm sure he did the head thing too.
See, on paper, that's fantastic. But in reality, it doesn't work that way.
Doesn't. And so that's the thing right there. That's why I wanted to bring this up. And I'm going to tell folks why. Because I have a friend of mine who has a cousin who was a coach and had an issue with one of the girls on his team. And he ended up getting himself into trouble. Didn't do any serious time for anything. Probation forever. Finally kind of coming out of that mess. But in the middle of coming out of it, his kids now have had to quit their soccer team. They've had to leave their church. The private school that they were going to kick them out. So all of these other things have been affected based off of this. No one's saying, now I don't know if the guy did what he did or did not do what he did. I'm going based off of what he's accused of, what he was convicted of, and now he has been out, done all of the things that the court system asked for him to do. And all of these things are still occurring. So, which is why I thought about this, and not just because of that situation, but just people in general, even going back again to the voting. If you have done what the law says you have to do in terms of your time, all of your classes, paying your fines, doing your probation time as well, is there not supposed to be a certain amount of time after all of that where you've paid your debt, man? And you cannot continue to be punished for these things going forward. Yeah.
No, because society isn't a courtroom. And that's the truth of the matter. The court can say you're forgiven, but society doesn't ever have to forgive. We watch that all the time where people do make mistakes and people never forgive them. I mean, you can look at Chris Brown, you can look at Trump. I mean, just pick any figure who's done something ridiculous. A majority of people will never forgive them for what they did. I mean, everybody says America is the land of second chances, but that second chance is only if you can provide something that the greater of society misses. If you don't provide anything that the greater society can't get somewhere else, then they don't give a fuck about you. No one gives two shits.
Do you agree that that's okay? Do you agree that that is right?
It doesn't matter if it's right or wrong. The majority rules in society. So,
well, your point, your thoughts on this today actually matters. That's what I'm asking you. Do you believe that to be right?
Personally, no.
Okay.
because America is the biggest perpetrator of it. If you really want to take it there, but you know, it is what it is. As a collective group, we have all decided that certain people don't get to come back. Kanye West, for example, you don't get to come back. It depends on what you do and how you did it, and then what you do after the fact that you got caught doing what you did. So, you know, Kanye did what he did. Adidas took the deal. Now it's rumored that he's out there working with Adidas again because they need that money. They realize that, oh shit, as much as we think we don't need him, we actually do. But the die has already been cast, and so
we don't like Jews as much as we thought we did.
Yeah, so they weren't buying the shoes anyway, and so it's like, you know, you take a look at Bud Light and what they did and how their marketing strategy kind of backfired. They lost all these, you know, right wing bars and you know, places where their beer was being sold, so their market share took a hit. Now they're trying to come back and redo it and say, "Oh, I apologize," blah 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 blah. But like, it's all, the damage has already been done, and we know people who are angry do not forgive. And so, whatever amount of time it takes in order for you to be forgiven is really the true testament of whether or not you can come back into society.
Here's my thing. Hey, August, let me ask you something. I think that's your phone. I think that's your phone. I'm hearing. You cut the volume down?
No, it's not my phone.
Okay, I'm hearing.
My volume is down.
I'm hearing us for some reason. August, I'm gonna go to you. Just give me 1 second here, Deon. You know, it's interesting that you brought up Bud Light, and folks out there, we're gonna go to your comments as well about our initial. So we're not switching up on you. Stay with us. It is weird that they did lose the amount of folks, the market share that they lost, but I don't think it's a long-term thing for them. I think people will come back. It's not as if they were selling these cans. I think if they were actually selling these cans and you saw them on your shelves and they couldn't snatch them back off the shelf, that would be something different. But I do think they'll regain those folks back, those bars included, sooner than later.
But see, and that's where I politely have to disagree with you. I don't think once you piss off people in a way that you piss them off, like what they're mad at, you can't undo that. So Bud Light's problem is they went quote unquote woke. And in the eyes of the people who were buying that beer, that is a cardinal sin. You cannot do that. That is an affront to who they are as people. And so the second you do that, the amount of time it's going to take, I mean, unless you're doing crazy discounts on that beer to the point where it can compete with Natty Ice and Busch Light and all the other Blue Ribbon and all that other shitty beer, people are just going to go, because it's not like Bud Light, you know, controlled the market share. It wasn't like it was untouchable beer. It's like people will replace it. Well, whereas on the flip side of it, what you were trying to gain, the trans community's not drinking Bud Light like that. They're drinking seltzers and that type of stuff. So it's just
cosmopolitans.
Yeah, it for whatever reason, that crime, you can't undo it. Now I don't know how much time it's going to take, but from what I've noticed just in this particular instance, those people are very, very slow to forgive, and they never forget.
Well, we'll have to come back to that when we see what happens if they do start to get that market share back or not. August, you want to say something there? You want to throw a couple cents in?
I was going to say, has O.J. Simpson repaid his debt to society?
Oh, he was never convicted. So,
but you know the motherfucker did it.
He was never convicted. There's
He's
no
for
debt
something
to pay.
else.
He got convicted for stealing his own stuff.
Yeah, he got convicted for that. Yeah,
exactly.
But he went to jail.
You know how
he went to jail. He got out. So yeah, he paid his debt to society in terms of that. What's the comments we got there, Miss O'Neill?
All right, here we go. Here we go. Small-time crime should not keep people from getting jobs, especially those that use their time away to learn a skill and do better for themselves. That's from Bruce. Carla Lorraine states, pedos and rapists should never be allowed any rights. They took the right away from someone who said no. So guess what? No, they have no rights.
Okay.
Frank Telez states, just because they do the time for the crime, that is not enough. They have to prove themselves they have to prove themselves and show that they belong back in society.
Okay, let's stop.
Now, Bruce
I'm going to stop right there real quick. Deon, I don't know if I agree with that. I don't know if I agree that there's some type of tests you got to take to prove. I mean, we already leave that up to the parole board before they let you out, to let you out based off your record and whatever it is that you state to them during your hearing. So I think that is kind of your final test. Would you agree with that?
No, because you don't live in the court system, you live in society. And society judges you based off what the court system says you did. We don't judge you on the time that you spent in. We judge you on what you did to go in the first place. So you can be go into to serve your time and repay your debt to society by being behind bars for X amount of years. But that doesn't mean you've changed as a person. And so when you get out, whether you did hard time or soft time, people are going to look at you as someone who was doing time.
Yeah, but how are you supposed to prove this? And I'm going based off of my brother-in-law, Frank there. His statement, and that's where I'm going with this, all based off his. That's the point we're on. How are you supposed to prove that, though, to society? You know,
But
if we're talking about that, then society has left it up to the courts, the jurisdiction, the courts and the jury, the justice system to make this decision based on the information that they have. Yes, absolutely.
The society leaves the punishment up to the justice system. But when you get done with the punishment, society still can decide whether or not that punishment was enough or not. And you, as the person who offended, don't have the right to tell people, hey, man, I did my time. Again, the victim decides when you are, quote unquote, done with your debt. I don't know how we as a society could say, oh, this person did this. He served X amount of years. I'm fine with that. And then the next person come along, same thing, and they're not okay with it. That's just how fickle this society is. We as a culture are slow to forgive people. We love a comeback story, but it just depends on the situation. I mean, everybody loves the underdog, right? Everybody loves when you hear about a man who went to prison when he was 15, 16, 17 years old for something stupid, comes out and then goes and talks to the kids and helps them stay out of the same path that he went down. Everybody loves that. But at the same time, that person who did that had to struggle immensely once that situation was over to get to that point. And there is no time frame for people who go in and come out and say, oh, it only took me 3 years for society to accept me. It just depends on what you do.
For folks who are just jumping on to the podcast or who are just jumping on to YouTube or Facebook Live right now, the discussion we are having, I keep looking up because I have it written on the dry erase board in front of me here, is can a criminal ever pay their debts to society? So if you're just jumping on, that is what we're discussing. Look, as a conservative, as someone who loves the justice system, generally speaking, I find myself kind of torn on it because it is supposed to work in a particular way. And again, as society, we have, quietly or not, you have agreed to be a member of this group. This is the way that this works. You pay your debt. This is the way that it has always been. This is the way that has always been stated. This is just the way it is. So again, we don't even have to talk about whether the victim feels this way or that way. Because if you are a victim, then you are a victim and you are always going to feel like you've been wrong. We cannot say that we can't move forward or that individual can't move forward based off of how the victim feels. There's a good chance that victim is always going to feel negative about that experience, whatever that experience may be. But do we put up these roadblocks for people? Because then what you have, Deon, and we see it in a large part of our own community, now you have forced people who have come out to have a hard time with becoming a part of society and getting jobs and so on and so forth. And a lot of those people end up committing crimes again and going back in because it is very hard for them to come out and start over. Thoughts?
Well, part of deterrent, you try to deter people from ever going in because you tell them once you go in, it's damn near impossible to get out. We all know how the system works. You go in, you get institutionalized, as all just said, and then you're in this cycle. Once you get on probation, it's very hard to get off. The recidivism rate is very, very high. And there's a reason for that. They make money off you going in there. Absolutely. And so society once you break the rule of society where you don't commit crimes and you get caught, society doesn't have a need for you. You're just a criminal to society. Society doesn't care whether or not you've turned your life around. Society will tell you, hey, go prove it. Is that fair? Probably not. But that's the point. You're not supposed to ever be in that situation in the first place. Separate issue. Yeah. When you talk about the justice system, a lot of people go in who should never be in there in the first place, whether they are wrongly convicted or their crime had no victim in the first place. Mm-hmm. So there's lots of layers to this, but generally speaking,
definitely.
If you go in and you come out, you should already know before you even got in that road back is a very uphill battle. And society is not going to stop to hear, but I paid my debt, because they don't care. Everybody's life goes on. Everybody keeps doing what they got to do to stay out of that situation. And so, again, when you ask for forgiveness, whether it be serving time or to the victim itself, whether or not they choose to forgive you is up to them. And all you can do is keep going forward.
August, can we go to some more comments? I'm sure we got quite a few of them, I'm assuming.
Yes, Raven Gregory is crazy. He said it depends on if it's him or not. Then yeah, give that little shit a second chance.
Raven, you stupid.
You know he's off.
You stupid.
He said, but you can't. We did say you can't prove it to society. You can only prove it to yourself. You can't control how society perceives you. So I mean, that's either for good or for bad. Frank Tillis states, by being a good role model, a good model citizen, hardworking, and staying away from crime-like activities, and not to be a repeat offender. That's really how you pay your debt to society.
You know what, Frank, that's a good, I'm sorry, August. Frank, I like that. It's not, that's not anything I thought about. If there is a way that you're going to try to do it, that would be a great way to do it. I'm sorry, August, go ahead.
Oh, no problem. Okay, wait, where's the other one? Let's see. And here's Raven again. You can only mitigate how society looks at you and what they get to see. If you go live in Africa and take care of starving children to redeem yourself, but no one sees it, you see it. Who does it? Why does it matter? That's what he's trying to say.
I got you.
The wording is a little off. And someone said, wait, you love the justice system? The just us system? You know who that was. That was Slim. And then he said, but with the O.J. Simpson thing, society still cannot stand him, even though he was not convicted. And that's exactly how I feel.
Okay.
All right. And let's see here. Someone else said, Carla said, it depends on the crime. My dad got arrested once for not paying my dog's license. Our dog's license. Shit like that is different. That's not like a real criminal thing, is it? Not paying your dog license?
I didn't know you'd get arrested for it. So, Carla, we'll have to talk about
I know.
Okay.
I'll say, like my uncle was arrested. He killed somebody, and then he was released after 25 years. He was a scrub then, and he is still a scrub now. So, no. He has not necessarily repaid his debt to society, I don't think, because he hasn't necessarily killed anyone, but he has not bettered himself or his life or his children's lives. Period. Plain and simple.
I think that's two different things. Any more comments, August?
Is it? I know. Because he sucks. Now let's see here. Because he didn't come back out here and make it better. Like, I don't know.
I hear you.
Marisa Hannigan says, you can petition the court to have your rights restored to vote again.
Okay. All right.
And that was the last of it.
All right. I'd like to see.
We've got some in the group that I want to read.
Okay. What you got?
So Joanne Little says 100% sex offenders proven you can't rehabilitate those sickos. Most other crimes, I'd say yes. Okay. Roxy says, yes, they could potentially be rehabilitated and pay their debts to society. There are so many variables and factors to take into account. I also recognize that I am biased because of my criminal defense experience. She goes on to say, the justice system is broken, especially the juvenile justice system. We have a lot of youth lost in this system that is disregarded and ignored. We keep missing opportunities with these kids. Most of them just get pushed into the adult system. Tamiko says, if you mess with kids sexually, especially coaches, teachers, church, etc., you don't get a second chance. I have a 10-year-old daughter. I'm also a victim of molestation as a child. The person Was never punished. That shit is unforgivable. Robert Brock says, if you pay, you pay. The prison system is a corporate system. Some people don't deserve that type of punishment, but the corporate system depends on convictions. As a society, we need to relook at our punishment. He goes on to say, the criminal system is ran by corporations. As a former city councilman, I have seen firsthand how they lobby. The system is set up for people not to rehabilitate. And then the last comment here is, Sidney.
Nope.
If Tamiko says, and if the convicted predator's family is suffering, whose fault is that? You fucked with a kid at a school and got caught. Cry me a fucking river. You should have thought about how your family could be affected when you did what you did.
Okay. All right. I love the comments, guys. Keep them rolling in. I appreciate everyone taking part in it. I really, really do. Again, if you guys disagree with me or agree, and Deon or August for that matter, when she chimes in, please throw us a heart up there or a thumbs up, thumbs down. We would love to see that as well. And don't forget to click that share button. Tamiko, I definitely get it. And anyone else out there, I think Tamiko is the only person who shared it. But if anyone else out there, completely get if you are a victim of any type of sex crime. And I definitely can understand, even if you're not a victim of it, there's people who are not, who still feel what they feel because the kids are the innocents. So I'm completely get that, completely understand that as well. But again, it was a question that kind of crossed my mind. I said, hey, I want to ask the group and see what the group thought.
I got a question for you then. Let's kind of look at the flip side of this. As someone who comes out of the criminal justice system and you go back into society, what are you expecting society to forgive in order for you to live the type of life that you're looking for? What are you hoping or expecting from society that you aren't, quote unquote, getting necessarily?
Well, just to make sure people understand, because I think the way you asked the question makes it sound like that I'm coming out.
No. I was framing the question as if you were somebody. Yeah, I know.
I was like, being part like, who?
Sounds like people gonna think Sidney been doing this podcast from his prison cell for the last 3 years.
That's why he's so yoked up now.
About to get out.
You got that get off me muscle.
Yard arms.
I do nothing with my legs. All right, so but to answer your question, I think the basic things, just being able to go out and get a job and something more than mopping floors or moving boxes. If you have the education, the background, or whatever to do that type of work.
But then the argument becomes preference.
Say again?
The argument then becomes preference, does it not? As a private company, you have the preference to.
I would agree with you.
Look at that.
I would agree with you, but but you are automatically not going to be. Look, I know what people are going to say, and we're not talking about just child molesters or people who've offended a child. We're not talking about just that. I'm talking about across the board. To be able to come back out and put yourself in a position. Yes, you committed a crime. Yes, you did something wrong. Maybe you were young. Maybe you were middle-aged. I have no idea. And maybe it was the circumstances that put you into that situation. Who knows? But if you have paid your debt to society and are coming out, I think you have to be given a shot to try to be better than you were before. That's the thing that we all want. The only thing that changes that person than from the rest of us right now is the fact that we will all want a second chance. If I offended you, Deon, on a phone call tomorrow, we got into it and just had words we never had before, so we're bound to do it at some point. But if I felt the next day like, man, I shouldn't say that to my brother, I would want a second opportunity for us to mend our friendship and to move forward. And I think you would want the same thing. That's all anybody wants is a second opportunity to do better. We talk about it. There's memes about it. There's fucking motivational speakers who talk about it. And we all sit there, yeah, we click, we follow, we send it on to someone. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
Right. You're allowed to ask for the chance, but you're not guaranteed to get it. You can ask all day long.
Nope. If you're paid your debt, that is automatic. You have paid your debt.
but that's the difference. You don't pay your debt to society by going to prison.
Then we need to come up with a squash ball tournament.
The only thing that does is keep you from doing whatever it is you did before you went in there. When you're in there, you're not doing anything beneficial to society other than not being a part of it. So
that's the benefit. What are you talking about? You just said two things at once.
Right. That's what I'm saying. So the only thing I'm getting is the opportunity for you to not do what you did. Right. And so you spend X amount of years in there, not being able to do what it is that got you in there. Then you come out and you ask society to forgive you. And society is going to look at you just like we all look at everybody who is not one of our preferences. Nah, because you've got X amount of strikes on your record. That a company now we've created laws to where you can't discriminate against people who have served time. I think was it 2019, 2020 where they created that new law where you can't ask people if they have been on job applications anymore because of the discriminating factor. Like, we've created laws to make that a thing. But at the same time, if people know your history, then they have the ability to fuck with you or not. And whether it's fair or not, we could argue that all day. It's just, that boils down to preference. But I personally think that if you go in there, before you go in there, you should know what you're getting yourself into when you're doing whatever it is that you're doing.
Before we go to the rest of the comments I'm sorry, Deon. Before we go to the rest of the comments and move on to our next topic, I want to make sure we get to the rest of those comments.
Okay.
But before we do, I wanted to go back to Deon. Can you go back to the first part of not Tamiko? Whose comment was it? Not Roberts, not the city council. Who else was it that you read?
Roxy.
Yeah, thank you, Roxy. Like that first couple lines of hers.
Of her very first comment, the justice system is broken, about the juveniles. Is that?
Yeah, about the juveniles. Please.
So the system is broken, especially the juvenile justice system. We have a lot of youth lost in the system that is disregarded and ignored. We keep missing opportunities with these kids. Most of them just get pushed into the adult system.
Right there. Yep. Thank you. So just to touch on that real quick, I do believe overall that this is part of the issue. I do believe, and this is where I think you and I are going to line up. I do believe that the justice system has turned, as Robert Scott Brock was saying, allowed itself to be taken over by corporate interest. And I do believe that everything that is done from our politicians when it comes to especially a lot of the black and brown kids, or white kids for that matter, just kids in the inner city, period, with things, you and I talked about this with San Francisco, with things being taken away from them, programs, after school programs, and all these different things that fall under that umbrella, which only turns them out into the streets in a lot of cases, and turns them out onto the street to criminals who would have them do whatever, which has them go off into the juvenile system, which ignores them, I believe, as Roxy just said. And they go from that into the adult system. And then it's just another thing just churning out criminals like they're fucking cattle because there's a dollar sign just floating above their heads from when they're a small child growing up. What do you?
So let me get this straight. You think society should do a better job taking care of its people instead of trying to earn money off the backs of people's bad decisions?
Don't try it. Nice try.
You just really sounded like a socialist for a second, and I was just making sure I heard you correctly. Because I could have sworn you said something about maybe we need to find a better way to take care of people than stripping all their rights away and milking them for all the cash we can get. Wow, what a concept. Who knew that you would come around to see the light?
Nice try. August,
somebody write down today's date and make sure we get a timestamp for that. Because I thought I'd never live to see the day to hear Sidney repeat what I've been saying on this podcast for 3 years. Thank you very much.
I did not say all of that. You love to take one little thing I said and somehow
I know what I heard.
No,
and
you
I
heard
know
that.
what everybody in the group and everybody watching heard. We all heard the exact same thing. Yeah, maybe we do need to do a better job as a society. You're right.
That's not what we said.
Right. That's funny.
August, go ahead.
Are you ready?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Fuck you, Deon.
Cat Miro says, but do you want someone who lost... Cat Miro said, but do you want someone who lost a ton of money or stole money back in their old job? That's what she said in regards to that person, well, society. And then Melee says, I'm going to get off pedos and go to crimes such as selling or things like that. For them to be able to get a job or a place to live is, in my opinion, harsh. My brother has 2 strikes and now he's selling weed. Now that selling weed is legal, but he still has to say he is a convicted felon. That makes sense.
That is that's
a big thing.
Yeah, that's an argument that has been made quite a lot over the years, Malay, and definitely now with them allowing for legal.
But we do understand why that was a crime, right?
Because the government hadn't figured out a way to make money off of it yet.
The government knew how to make money off of it. They just wanted to penalize Black and brown people. It wasn't about everybody knows Black and white people do drugs about the same rates across the board, right? Everybody knows that.
Look,
but I can win votes. You gotta look at the breadcrumbs. I can win votes by saying I'm tough on crime by criminalizing people. Exactly. Look at the money. Look how much money private prisons made by locking up Black and brown people for petty fucking crimes that everybody does.
And what I'm saying, and now the government and everyone can make more money by letting it be legal and letting people get a license, pay for that shit, and sell it legally. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying you're completely wrong. You're wrong a lot, but you're not completely wrong on this one.
I haven't been wrong on this episode, and I'm going to tell you why. Because the idea of licensing didn't come about until the people who this shit was affecting rose up and started voting in people who would make a change to the law. They didn't do this. It wasn't just some overnight decision like, oh, you know what? Fuck it. Let's make it legal and just start making money off of it. No, that's not what happened. People who were affected by it got into power and changed the laws. And so in order to stay in your seat, you had to, what did you do? You had to, what's the compromise? You had to be like, all right, I'll let weed be legal, but you got to give me something over here.
No, sir. Because if that was the case, you would see it legal from coast to coast federally, and you haven't seen it yet. No, sir. Certain states, certain areas have figured out the amount of money, like Colorado, for instance, has figured out, fuck, get high all you want to. This is we're racking up billions of dollars into this. We're going to rack more money into that than putting people into prison. Follow the money, not the breadcrumbs.
It's a blue state, yeah.
Call it whatever you want. Call it whatever you want.
I mean, look at all the factors to determine why it's legal, where it's legal at. The majority of people in the places where it's legal are what? Liberal. The places where it's illegal are majority what? Conservative. It's an ideology, right? And you're not going to win in a red state off of let's make weed legal. We'll pull the map up
later, and I'm sure there's plenty of red states that have weed legal. Yeah, unless you have a map in front of you right now saying different, there's no way you're going to say that the red states are locked out.
The majority of the
red states want money too.
The majority of the South is not legal.
That's the South. There's a lot more of the country conservative than the South.
Okay, so but I'm asking you where it's legal at.
All right.
All those states are blue.
Okay. No, so let's go ahead and go to the next topic. Let's go to some comments.
I'm gonna go Google it.
Okay.
Bastard.
So while you reading them comments,
Bruce Belter. All right, thank you, sir. Bruce Belter said people should be given a chance based on circumstances, but they have to understand that they will be watched on a different level. Cat Miro states criminals are not even given the ability to ask for forgiveness. There used to be a time kids used to be able to go into the military instead of going into a juvenile facility. And I agree with that.
All right. Deon, we got anything?
Victoria said, come on, Texas. And then Bruce said, most governors of red states that haven't legalized it yet are waiting on the government to legalize it.
Okay.
So,
all right. Deon,
so you got.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. I pulled up the map. So you got where it's completely legalized. You got Oregon, Washington, California, Alaska, Nevada, Montana, Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, Illinois, Missouri, Michigan, Maine, New York, Vermont, Massachusetts, Delaware, Rhode Island,
So you got a good
New
mix.
Jersey, and Virginia,
You
right?
got a good mix. Yeah.
The rest of the states, you look at the map of the South, it's decriminalized, which means they're not going to lock you up if you got some.
Yeah.
But if you move in weight, they're not allowing that. And if you're trying to set up a shop, they're not allowing that.
I mean, it's headed in that direction. I like to get my money into one of these systems real quick, though, before I miss
Of course.
Deon, were there any comments, sir, from anyone in the group before we transition? And thank you guys for jumping in with us. We appreciate it.
Let's see here. Roxy says, also decriminalize prostitution. LOL.
You want everywhere to be like Vegas, don't you, Roxy?
Yeah. I mean, with the advent of OnlyFans, it's pretty much decriminalized.
Yeah, pretty much.
Lunatic Coleman says you can never repay the government.
Who said that?
Robert Scott, Lunatic Coleman.
Who the hell is that? That's what I thought you said. What's up, Lunatic?
Robert says, agree, in Europe it's regulated, talking about prostitution. He says, you shouldn't have to expect society to forgive. By their rules, you paid by doing your time for your crimes. That's where the problem is. Too many people aren't given a chance. Joanne Little says, I've just gone through the system with my son. Luckily, he is a minor, and they didn't just throw the book at him. It did make me way more open-minded to people making mistakes. However, luckily, he's got parents who are on his ass constantly to keep him straight, along with medication.
Good for you.
We got to catch them when they are young. Tamiko says, what Sidney is saying, I agree with, but we all know when they fill out that app and the question appears, have you ever been convicted of a felony? Most employers are going to be like, oh, hell no. And that's kind of not fair, but I get it. Dana says, I would always love a second chance. Also, you need a liberal on this show. Just saying.
Who said that?
Hello, I'm Dana.
Deon is our liberal. Dana, what are you talking about?
Robert Scott says, Tamiko Owens, yep, it's loaded question like when is your birthday and are you a disabled veteran? There has to be consequences, but at what cost to what we strive to be a humane society? Roxy said, let the hoes be hoes.
Slim said the weed is legal in Canada. Charles
it is. They smoke on the streets of Vancouver like you would not believe.
He over here talking like he's going to Canada. He ain't going to Canada.
I've been to Canada. I did shows in Vancouver.
No, Slim.
Oh, Slim.
They're talking about Canada. Any place he goes south of here. He ain't going nowhere north of here. Unless it's North Vegas. He ain't going nowhere north. Thank you guys very much for all your comments. We have more eyeballs on the show this week than we've had in a long time. So we do appreciate that. Again, please click that share button if you haven't. We do appreciate you. You may see, if you're new to the show or if you've been here before, you'll see me shortly scroll at the bottom the information for the Patreon. You guys can jump on, get some things that we offer there. You can do it for as little as $1, become a patron of the Patreon. So we would appreciate if you would at least take a look at it. And if you decide to go ahead and do $1, that'd be great. We appreciate it.